My name's Elizabeth Coffey, and I'm going to be discussing drug policy in the United States and how it's race neutral on the surface. In this presentation, I'm going to be discussing two important legislative acts, drug policies and some specifics of them, important statistics on this issue, and possible solutions to the problem. The Fourth Amendment. It was added as part of the Bill of Rights on December 15th back in 1791. It stated the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause. The Jim Crow laws, which allowed for legal segregation, came to an end in 1964 with the passing of the Civil Rights Act. The Civil Rights Act ended legal segregation in public places and banned employment discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. These were two crucially important legislative acts passed in order to create protection of personal privacy and to create equality among all people. Before I get into the general definition of federal and state drug possession law, I'm going to define controlled substance. A controlled substance is a substance that is controlled by the government because it may cause addiction or be abused. So the general outline to drug possession law is possessing an illegal controlled substance such as methamphetamine, cocaine, LSD, marijuana, which depends on state regulations, heroin, and many other stimulants. It could also be possessing chemicals that are used in the cultivation of drugs, or certain accessories that are related to drug use. Proving possession of drugs is the knowledge that a drug was a controlled substance and knowingly having possession of the controlled drug. There are two main categories when it comes to possession of a controlled substance. The first is simple possession, which is also known for personal use. The second is possession with intent to distribute, which is the distribution of a controlled substance to others. For simple possession or personal use, the first violation results in possible sentence of imprisonment for not more than 1 year, with a minimum fine of $1,000, or potentially both. The second violation results in no less than 15 days to no more than 2 years imprisonment, with a minimum fine of $2,500. Anything after is a minimum fine of $5,000 with uncertain sentencing time. The second, possession with intent to distribute. The first offense results in 10 years to life imprisonment, and if serious bodily harm occurs, 20 years to life, with a minimum fine of $10,000, which could go up to anywhere around 50. But this can vary from case to case. Now that we've gone over some important legislative acts and the general definition of federal and state drug possession laws, along with their possible repercussions, I'm going to provide for you some shocking statistics. Black people constitute 43% and white people 55% of people convicted of drug felonies in state courts. But Black people account for 53.5% and white people for 33.3% of people admitted to state prison with new convictions for drug offenses. I bet you're wondering how those percentages are so drastically different. Well, the Drug Policy Alliance, which is a New York-based nonprofit organization with the principal goal of ending the American war on drugs, did some research. And after researching the sensitive topic, they found that prosecutors are twice as likely to pursue a mandatory minimum sentence for Black people as for white people charged with the same offense. In case the first group of percentages didn't create a clear enough picture about the disproportion of race and convictions, here's a graph that shows the race percentages of Black, white, and Latino people in the United States population, state prison for drug offenses, and federal prison for drug offenses. As you can see in the first part of the graph, white people make up more than 60% of the population, the remaining percent being Black and Latino, in this graph. So how is it that in the next section of the graph that the percentages of people in state prisons for drug offenses, that all the races are sitting evenly around 20%? This is a hard statistic to understand when whites make up more than half of the population. Looking at the next section of the graph, the reality of this becomes even more difficult to understand. In federal prison, whites make up less than 40% of people convicted for drug offenses, but still make up more than half of the population as a whole. While blacks and Latinos only make up around 30% of the population, but are 60% of those convicted at the federal level? Now that we've gone over some of the issues that accompany race and drug convictions in the United States, we could talk about some possible solutions. I'm sure that you've either seen a movie, show, or even heard a podcast about individuals being treated unfairly by the law due to their skin color. I believe all the platforms listed below are a strong way to help spread the message about racial inequality. I believe more exposure on each of these platforms, especially social media, will help bring this very real problem to light. Many individuals are not familiar with this issue because they have never experienced it firsthand. So portraying this issue across platforms that everyone uses will show the severity of this issue to those who had no prior knowledge. Since most drug possession charges are a result of traffic violations, in which probable cause allows officers to search the vehicle, I believe that mandatory searches of all vehicles would help be a solution. Requiring a mandatory vehicle search for every individual who is pulled over would limit the factor of race in probable cause claims. There are two main possibilities that mandatory searches can create. The first one being a balance in the race percentages of people being arrested for drug possession. Since any individual who is pulled over would have their vehicle searched, race would not play a role, and anyone who committed a traffic violation, no matter the severity, would just automatically get their vehicle searched. A second one would be drug distribution would decrease since the likelihood of being caught increased. Dealers are going to have a more difficult time moving product if there's a 100% chance their vehicle will be searched for something minor, like going 5 over the speed limit. None of the drug laws mention race in any way, yet race seems to be the biggest deciding factor in the severity of drug crimes and probable cause searches. This is not a problem that is going to be resolved overnight. In fact, look how long ago the Civil Rights Act was passed, and racism is still an issue today. More exposure and holding the same legal standard to all individuals who break the law will allow for the resolution of the inequality among races in the justice system. And here's my works cited.